Okay, I have a PT04 TM wireless slave. It's set up to hook onto a, I don't know, a DSL. Hook it to the hot shoe, press the button, and it'll sense the camera and fire with the camera, or you press this button and it'll fire too. And what we're going to do, we're going to hack this little setup so we can use it with a trail cam. And this, what we'll do is have a wireless remote slave. And what that does is you have the camera slave, you have the camera flash, but this will be a separate unit that we can put out beside it or in front of it or right above it. Doesn't matter where you put it. Up to 100 feet it should fire. So we're going to hack into this and show you how to do it. It's pretty simple, very simple stuff. Okay, we're going to start with the transmitter. If we look underneath, there's a screw right here in the back, right above. We're going to loosen that screw up, and we're just going to try to pop it apart. You'll notice there's a battery. If the battery goes bad, you'll have to replace it. I'll take the battery out. You don't have to, but I'm going to. And this is what I want to tap. Okay, that's what it looks like, and I can read. This is what fires. So this sits on top of the camera. The camera triggers. So you have negative and positive. That's the trigger, and that triggers your transmitter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually, I'll cut these wires out, and you could leave them in, I guess, if you wanted to, but I'm not. I need as much room as I can get, and I'll probably cut the top off of that thing. So I'm going to, but remember which is which. So I'm just going to cut the wires off. You can unsolder them, whatever you feel like doing. Now what I'm going to do is replace those wires. Okay, I'm going to solder on the positive trigger, be yellow. Try to get it to line for me. Okay, it's positive. Now for my negative wire, so my trigger negative, this thing ain't cooperating as far as staying, trying to not to have my hand in front of it. Okay, solder that on. And that's my trigger wires. Okay, I ground a little spot here from a wire. So we're going to put this back together. Oop, there we go. Get my little battery. Popped out of there. Yep, there it went. drop my cover back in. My screw's still in there. So, these will go to your trigger of your board. I won't say slave control, because if I'm using an AOI, I can just run these right into the opto. So that's the transmitter. Pretty simple. Really nice set. Okay, now we're gonna work on the receiver. I gotta take the battery cover off the back, and I'm gonna poke that cover off. Could be a real bear, and this will give me access to the battery. But I need to take this board out so I can get to everything, and I'm not going to be using this. I'm just going to wire directly. You could use that, I guess, but we're going to cut it out. So I'm just going to cut the wires. And I'll actually take that connector off. There'll be 2 screws, one here. There's 1 screw. Two screw. And that's the board I'm going to hack into. Okay, for the battery, it takes 2 triple. I'm going to use 2 double A's, so I'm not going to use the batteries inside here. So you can unsolder these if you want, but this is where I want to be. And I want to go back here, and it'll be negative positive for your battery. So I'm going to hot solder in 2 external battery wires, which I'll run to a battery holder. Okay, I'm going to solder on my external wires. I took the battery tabs off, just unsolder them. If you would, I'm not going to use those, so I'm going to solder my ground wire in. Whoops. And then I'm going to solder in my positive wire. And like I said, I'll hook up double A. I set a double A externals to this. Drop my wire on the floor. So we'll go to my positive tab now. There we go. And that's for my battery externals for my controller. Like I said, I'm going to use the double A's, or maybe it depends what I can fit. If I can fit 2 C's, I'll do that. They'll last a long time. Okay, we're going to solder my trigger wire. So it's positive trigger, negative trigger. So I'm going to use yellow for my positive, just as I did for my transmitter. So I'm going to solder that on. And I'll use blue. It's a negative. Now, these two, the trigger wire is going to go to your slave, and the black and red are just nothing more than external power, so the board lasts longer. Pretty simple hack. We'll put it back together here. Okay, I took that connector out of there, so I have a place to put the wires through. So we'll put this thing back together. Now you can use, what's so nice about this is, I can use one transmitter to fire several of these receivers. So actually you can have multiple of these, as long as my trigger or my dips are set I could run 3 or 4 slaves off of one transmitter. So it's a pretty cool setup as far as what you can do with it. So I'm going to put the screws back in. Now there's more work to this to do on. This is just to show you how to hack the receiver and transmitter. We'll do, I mean, you have to hook this into the board. You have to be able to control it. But it's a pretty simple hack. About anybody could do it. Not a whole lot to worry about. And there you go. That's the hack to the transmitter. And it's ready to be mounted into a board. A build. So there we go.